Well, I mentioned that I need some verification on some of these stories. Well, true to my word, I've brought along my oldest friend in the world, John Cooke. A guy who has been with me for most of these stories. And what I thought I'd do, I asked John to come along because this is a crazy story of when we were younger and a car crash that was so horrible. But like every story, even though it's horrible, there's some humor in it. So how I told John we're going to do this, just for expediency's sake, is as I tell the story, whenever he thinks he needs to, he can interject.
There it is. That seemed an obvious point to interject, but that was just a sample if you're playing along at home.
Right?
Carry on.
You may have questions that maybe John can fill in, because I wasn't maybe in the best mind at the time to, recount this story totally accurately, but I do remember very clear glimpses, and I'm sure wherever my memory may fail me a little bit, my friend here will interject and correct the story. So,
as best you can.
That's all we can do.
All the caveats, all the same caveats.
That's right. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right into the story. So this is about John's almost a year older than I, so he'd be 18, I guess, just 18 at this time. I was 17. It was the winter, and John lived in a wonderful cottage/house out at Browns Bay off the St. Lawrence River. We all know the St. Lawrence River. There's been many
cottage
stories
at the time, but I won't use the buzzer.
Okay.
Further ahead.
Yeah, so there you go. Technicality, no buzzer there.
Okay.
Anyways, wonderful place that we all used to hang out quite a lot. Now, John's parents weren't always there because they also had a place in town. So we quite often took the opportunity, the group of us, to go to the cottage and have a good time.
And good times we had, guaranteed.
Yes. Usually a little bit younger, we were chasing snakes, going up in the river, doing stupid stuff like that. We were a little older now and enjoying a little older stupid stuff.
I don't disagree.
Okay, yeah. That's true. It's a generality and it works in this case. So, on to this story. We're at John's place having some fun, but I'm going to start there because what happened prior to that, I'm sure everybody's had experiences in late high school having fun at places. And then deciding, let's go into town and have some more fun, because it was about 5 miles out of Brockville.
Now, there might be a lot of people on the internet saying, oh, boo-hoo-hoo, nobody comes to my parties. I disagree with the idea of fun. Like, when the party's at your house, it's not a lot of fun, and trying to get people out, and everybody was having a lot of fun. And any sort of ownership you had, or responsibility for the level of fun having taking place at your place, it wasn't 100% fun. Carry on.
100% fun for me.
Just setting the record straight as best I remember.
Growing up, I didn't have a lot of shindigs at my house, so I never had that problem. I was a good party attender, not a good party hoster. Anyway, so moving along.
Sorry, yeah. And this was about the third of some blowout gigs. I think it was about the third or the fourth. We had already set the place on fire a couple times prior.
Not literally. I've done that in a couple of the stories.
It was more of a smoldering. But anyway, carry on.
Smoldering.
You have to edit this thing anyways.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's one of my fine transition always. Anyways, or so. We were going to be leaving, so you would leave John's cottage and you'd walk down this driveway to the cars. And there was a number of us. The people that are included in this story were a couple of our very good friends, and we all had our girlfriends with us. Now, at the time, John was driving a small blue Chevette that literally was but it never stopped.
Buddy said it's like driving your old man's DeSoto. A good friend of ours described it that way.
I'll take his word for it.
He's expert. Carry on. No buzz.
Okay. So myself and one of our good friends jump in his car with our girlfriends directly behind us in the car, like in the same car, in the back seats. Another one of our great friends has the identical car, just a different color. I think we know these cars. 1978 Honda Civic. Everybody in North America had one, I think, at one point.
Hatchback.
They went like snot. They were standard, like real standards. And so the two of us in the Honda Civics just took off. And John took off in the Chevette behind us.
No buzz, cut in.
Okay.
Good. And I'll let you go after this because I know I've heard this story before. But again, the thing for me, so Buddy 1 zips off and it's 1978 Honda Civic. Next Buddy takes off.
These cars are like tops. Like
Acceleration, like just, acceleration. Maybe they couldn't hit 180 miles an hour, but
well, I think
could
they
get
had
to
lawnmower engines in them.
There you go. So two buddies take off in front of me, and again, my Chevette and my girlfriend. And I'm doing top. The girlfriend says, "What are you doing?" Because you guys were gone. The red lights of your taillights were far gone. It's like, yeah, what am I doing? And didn't technically gear down, but just sort of sat back, relaxed. The night's over. It's done.
You think?
I'm heading home.
So, we're in the second car, the chase car. Now, our good friend who's driving the lead car, he's merging onto the highway from a smaller offshoot of the 401. We're getting onto the 401, which you know is the Trans-Canada Highway. It's ridiculously huge. So we're on the on-ramp to the highway, which is basically cut out of a granite rock, which is a lot of the 401 near the St. Lawrence Seaway where we live in Rockville and Gananoque.
Canadian Shield.
You're not supposed to. See, I'm not hiding where we are. We all know where we are. The Great Canadian Shield. Anyways, everything's cut out of granite. So we're zipping along this entrance ramp, yes, to the highway. Thank you. And now our first friend has got the lead, and he's pretty well out in the highway. This is the crux of the whole thing. We're coming up behind him, and I think we're at about 80 or 85 miles an hour on a ramp, a pretty tight ramp onto the highway. Now, to add to the fun, it's drizzling out. So it's just enough to be slickery. And as we're on the ramp, my friend is just gunning the thing. And in a moment, I feel the car start to shimmy like this, shimmying like this. And I say to him, relax, like cool it, like what are you doing? And he says to me, it's not me, man, I'm not doing it. And that's not a good thing to hear at that particular time.
To add to it, and now that he's been named, super cool, relaxed kind of guy, just like not a crazy son of a gun. He was one of our
But I had a tendency, if you got angry, to do some damage.
True enough. And that's another story. That's one of my classics, and that is another story.
Okay, so on the ramp, going at about 85, on a nice tight corner, drizzle, in a granite rock cut ramp. And the car starts to shimmy. And I'm asking our friend, what are you doing? Stop doing that. He says, it ain't me. And at that particular moment, I distinctly remember the car taking a 90-degree right turn straight into the granite. Great Canadian Shield. You like to think you can remember the impact, but I do clearly remember making that 90-degree corner. The car just went and straight, same speed, into a giant granite wall. And at the last second, you just sort of remember putting your hands up, and the next few moments are slow-mo. Like you remember getting hit in your face with a sledgehammer, the car kind of rolling around, but I do remember it sort of skidding to that stop, and we were now oriented. I guess the skidding went on for about 100 yards or so. The car is now on the driver's side door up, and it's just a crumpled mess. And at this point, I'm awake, and I remember just saying, oh my God, is everybody okay? And we're all sort of slowly coming to, and my door is facing up. It's kind of like a spaceship, you know, and so I think we got to get out of the car because everybody's moaning and groaning. There's lots of injuries here. So I go to push the car door open to get out, and as I let go, it completely whacks me in the head. So just to add to the whole horrific accident, I now have a headache. Nonetheless, we managed to sort of, you know, extricate ourselves from the car. See, at some point now, we'll start getting into this a little more, but it's just snatches of memories for me, like that, getting hit in the head with the car door, and then crawling out of the car. Our friend was also out of the car, the one who was driving. And the girlfriends I think are out of the car at this point, and we're all walking around like zombies, like we don't know what's going on. But I do remember looking over and seeing him trying to push the car back on its feet, thinking he can, you know, we just push it back on its wheels and we'll just drive back into town. Well, the wheels were all pointing in different directions, and I don't know which way he was trying to orient the car, but you know, I think we weren't at our best at that particular moment.
No. And maybe that's the segue to...
At this point, we're kind of all walking around in a daze. For what I remember, I know I was walking around in a daze, and off in the distance, I see these two little pinpoints of light coming up. And at this point, I'm just going to let John give you his idea of what he was driving up to.
Okay. Yeah, so again, just heading home, listening to AM radio, wish I knew it was songs all the time. Coming up the ramp, and I see Buddy and his girlfriend walking, not Steve and his girlfriend, but Buddy and his girlfriend walk alongside the ramp there. And it was again foggy, misty, a bit of musty night. I thought, oh, they must have fought. Oh, they don't look very happy. They didn't look very cheerful. Oh, must be a fight. And then that Civic's kind of parked in an odd manner. Like they obviously pulled over in a rush, I guess. It was just, I don't know. Because again, I was a little sleepy at the time. I had my own fun in the evening. And so, yeah, putting it together. I remember those guys were walking, but where you were, I think your girlfriend was out of the car, and I just pulled in front. And I seem to remember you just out on your back from the moment that I first saw you, sort of.
Yeah, well, what I remember, and again, it's very fitful snatches of memories and all. Yeah. I remember that I was out. Now, just to recap what had happened, like injury-wise with everybody, just so you know when I mention these things, you know what we're dealing with. I had, and I'll show you the picture somewhere here, I'll overlay the picture. I had a cut that came from inside my hairline, came down and basically cut my eyelid in half. That was my major cut. Now, I had also, I guess, on impact, slammed my chest and I cracked my sternum, the middle bone here, I guess, holding the rib cage together. It's
Science proved it later, yeah?
Yeah.
We can confirm that with Brockville General Hospital.
Yeah, you can go check
my
records.
say Brockville.
Oh,
anyway,
it's okay. They're going to know it by now because, you know, we're internet stars. So, my friend who was driving, he had a broken nose, but he was so strong that when he hit, remember when we looked at the car after, he must have just braced because he actually pushed the steering wheel up as the car hit. Like when we looked at the wreck after, the steering wheel was pointed straight up. So he must have been holding it to get up out of my face, but no matter what, he did hit his face pretty hard, broke his nose. But that was pretty extent of his injuries.
Let Jack out there?
Yeah, sure. Our friend who was driving our car was so strong that the steering wheel, he had managed to push it up upon impact, but his face took a whack and his nose was broken. Other than that, I think it was more of a mental trauma for him. It was horrible. You know, he thought he had killed his friends. Our girlfriends in the back had pretty bad injuries. My girlfriend broke her knee and had 40 stitches cut down her back.
Forgot about the back.
Yeah, and his girlfriend behind him had broken her elbow, and she also had a 40-stitch gash in her back from the back window that had popped open. And we were all in bad shape. But I remember, and here's where we'll probably start getting some conflicting reports, because now we're together. John's come up on the scene and going, what the F is going on?
Before I was talking to you, though, I kind of remember putting the girlfriend's in my car with my girlfriend, kept just to keep warm, but I didn't keep the car running. They're going to stay in there, they're going to be safe, but I keep the car running with the heater, and again, it was October or whenever it was, right? And so, yeah, and then I tried, I got some, again, whether I've heard the story 1,000 times, I do remember Merv pushing on the car, and it's like, buddy, I don't think that's the best thing, as I try and...
He was not supposed to do anything bad. And I believe that in his mixed up, crash-addled mind, he believed that he could get the car back on the wheels and drive back to town, we'll be fine. Yeah. I actually remember him saying that we'll be able to get back into town.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
And even, I think, me at that point, I realized that car wasn't going anywhere. Yeah. So, now, again, I can only speak from my own interactions with John and any other people that came upon the scene. But what I do remember is I was lying down, and because I had this cracked sternum, I was having a problem breathing. So I was kind of wheezing as I was breathing, like... And then at some point, I think it clicked back into place where it should be. This is where John is attending to me going, you're going to be okay. Because I stopped wheezing. And at that moment, I remember John leaned over and started kissing me. That's one thing I do.
Maybe I've just wiped that memory out. I have no memory.
You can admit if you want to.
Again?
It's 2019.
It could have happened. But I'm just saying, I've no memory. Probably thankfully. Carry on.
Okay. What had happened literally it sounded to John, as we discussed prior or post accident, it sounded like I had stopped breathing, like I might have been out. And so John thought he would give me mouth-to-mouth resuscitation.
Which again, maybe I did, and again, where the punchline sits. But I also remember thinking, yeah, buddy, you stop breathing, like, you gotta do something. So I remember pounding on your chest.
Oh, that's not...
And with the broken sternum, and again, maybe I followed up with mouth to mouth.
Listen, you get to second base whatever way you gotta get.
Yes.
But neither...
I would just say you were not looking. If you were going to present yourself as a date that I'd like to get to second base with, you were not presenting yourself in the best. Yes.
That's almost like, I was unable to defend myself. That's what I'm thinking. So, careful, it's the Me Too generation. Anyways, we'll move along here. Of course, your friend's just trying to desperately help your friend stay alive.
So it seemed.
Right, and at the other point, I remember there was so much blood on my face that I couldn't see. Like, there was blood swooshed, and I'm sure rocks and whatever.
A lot.
I couldn't see it. I remember saying, I'm blind. I think I'm blind. Then I remember going, oh, no, it's okay. It's just gunk in my eyes. Anyways, there's all kinds of shit going on. At this point, I don't even know how the OPP happened upon the scene, or they were called. I don't know who the hell would call them. We weren't near anybody's house.
No interruption. But again, just fill in the gaps again of time frames exactly when things happen. But I remember, I think Buddy too was trying to flag cars as they went down the 401, doing 120 kilometers, whatever that would be, miles per hour. But and yeah, somebody stopped, and I was like, "What's that? We're going." I wanted to load all you guys into their car and go off to the hospital because Buddy's dying. You gotta help us out. So yeah, I think the cops just rolled in, sort of thing. And was there 2 cars?
Well, see, I remember one OPP coming up on the scene. I don't know how they got there, and I'm not sure how many were in it, but I know for a fact there was one female officer.
Guaranteed. Yes.
Guaranteed.
Confirmed.
Now I'm laying on the ground, and my friend is just apparently beating the shit out of me, even though I thought he was just trying to get to second base. But now I have a female OPP officer leaning over top of me, and it's funny how sometimes you remember things clearly, but upon remembering them, you wonder, what? Since I can remember, why would I say these things? I clearly asked her, and I'm sorry for any people out there that are offended by the language, but I remember clearly asking her how big her boyfriend was. And I don't know if that's a Canadian reference, or if I was trying to be a little cleaner than I maybe normally would have said something. I don't know. I wasn't thinking straight. That's what I'm going to tell you. But she was so gracious. I was saying all kinds of stuff. Like, that was probably the least of it. And she was just, don't worry about it. It's all good. You're going to be okay.
So that wasn't the least of it. That was about the worst.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, that was about the worst. That's
I guess I had just
again factual interruption there.
It's almost like someone gave you what's that? What's truth serum?
Yeah, it's,
you know,
what is it? Look it up on the internet.
Whatever. Yeah. Anyways, truth serum.
Truth serum.
And at the same time, what I do clearly remember is my girlfriend walking around saying out loud, "He's gonna die. He's gonna die." Because I'm the only one laying down at this point. I just needed a little relaxed. Eh?
I think that happened earlier. That's my only thing. I think that was happening before the police got there. As best I recollect.
Yeah, well, because it morphed on. Because now all of a sudden there's an ambulance there.
And at some point.
Yeah, at some
So
point.
if I can do you want some filling in the gaps now?
Up to the ambulance,
up to the ambulance.
Yeah.
So yeah, Buddy's got half his face cut off. There's tons of blood. And we're what? I was 18, you were 17, sort of thing. So I was like, "Don't die, buddy." And there was kind of that, and it's just kind of a sports thing. Like, you'll still be the cock of the walk. I remember that was my inspirational thing, because again, being that age, you're concerned about how this opens, and you're blind. I'm blind.
Was I the cock of the walk at that point in the social group?
In that moment, I tried to convince you, maybe, and again, for whatever admission, and the truth as I remembered, sort of thing, is maybe I encourage you to just, everything's going to be okay, and
you're doing whatever you can. That's what you do.
It's a choice I made at the time, so it was sort of, and again, you were in a certain amount of pain, so people tend to swear and cuss.
Well, I was in shock. I think it's called in PTSD in a sense.
Yeah, and because you were sort of cursing to fight the pain, this cop came on, and again, I remember her being most gracious. Looking back, especially, I think we're pretty lucky to get that particular cop.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe it was her first night or something. She's saying, "Oh Christ, is this the way this job's going to be?" But it's interesting because you know what? You don't know until you're put in a situation, not my situation, but John's situation. When you show up, like, how are you going to handle it? Are you going to be okay? I always think I'd be great. And, I always say I'm good with my own blood. When someone else is wangled, I'm not so good. I don't want to see your blood. I know I'm going to live. I just know of all these crazy I'm going to live. I can't speak for you. So, I don't want to be the cause of that or anything.
Yeah.
Anyways. So, I'm just going to, my little spurts of memory. So, the ambulance is there. And, I think I looked the worst, so they probably were attending to me first, and they were starting to bundle me up and get me in the ambulance. And at this point, my girlfriend's standing right by the door of the ambulance. I know clearly they're wheeling me, and she's going, "He's gonna die! He's gonna die!"
Right there.
And what I remember saying to her is, "I'll be okay. I think I'm okay." Anyways, so I'm in the ambulance. She's thinking I'm gonna die, and I'm telling her I think I'm gonna be okay. Like at this point, I'm starting to, it's like you got your head beat in. Which is another story between us. They take us to the hospital and they wheel us all in. Now I don't know if we're all in the same ambulance. I think my girlfriend came with me in the back of the ambulance. It's hard to say, but just to fast forward, we're in the emergency of the hospital as all of our parents are assembling. And my good old mom. I just say, can you not call her? Like, that's okay. It's all right. I'll hitchhike home or something. But don't call mom. You think I'm in bad shape now? Wait till she gets done. But I do remember us each being in separate rooms and they're tending to our wounds, and it was a pretty ugly mess for sure. And say this is not all fun and games, these stories, because our friend he took it pretty hard because you think you're mangling your friends for life. He didn't know that I'd make a total rebound to being the model that I am today. Amazing with all these accidents. anyways, what I'm getting at here is, long story short, you can imagine it took me a week in the hospital to recover. And eventually I do get back and go to high school again. I was painfully aware of other people being painfully aware of me because I looked like Frankenstein. I had stitches down here, 40 stitches down here. It was just brutal. And of course the social gossiping about the accident. And we didn't have pictures and social media and stuff back then. It was all word of mouth. And it was funny because, you know, as you're looking forward and the class is all over here, I'm on the far left of the classroom, and I get this sense of being watched by people, but I can't see out of this eye very well. And as I turn this way to look, I can sense all the heads turning back the other way to the front of the class. But it was just another time I looked like Frankenstein and had to get through high school. That wasn't too bad. Not a lot of buzzers. I thought there'd be more.
There you go.
So, this is John.
So yeah, validator. So maybe to validating. Yeah, again, the vague memories of it. I do remember at a certain point because I stuffed the girls into this little Chevy Chevette, whatever that piece of crap was. And finding out later that like he had a broken leg, maybe jamming them into the back seat of a small car is not the best thing to do with a broken leg and a broken arm and 2 massive cuts on their back. And so when the professionals got there and assessed the situation, I thought, oh, okay, if there's a next time, maybe I'll not move people. And yeah, just how our buddy who had just had the broken nose was sort of it just was not a good night for him. And Kay's dad, you can cut this out. So
John's father was a leading physician in our town. Physician. He was a gynecologist obstetrician, and he delivered most of the babies in town. Where on the other hand, my father was a mortician, the operator of Johnston Funeral Home. So we always make jokes about his dad'll bring him in, my dad'll take him out. We just didn't think it would relate to us in any particular moment.
There you go, yeah. And maybe how it relates to this story again, hanging around hospitals and stuff, that doesn't freak me out, and so all that blood and stuff, I wasn't freaked out till much later, sort of thing, you know. But we seem to be comfortable, I guess, dealing with life and death issues, you know.
We're experts at life and death, as you'll bear witness in some of these stories.
Yeah.
So anyway, John's going to be joining me on about 4 or 5 at least. Hey, by the way, if you like the Hoobler story, John is the original Hoobler.
Number 1, I guess. Well, hey, Dad, if I learn to play bass, we're going to have a band.
Those are whole other stories that we're going to get into. Anyways, I'm going to thank you for tuning in. If you do like these stories, please think about hitting the subscribe button. So from John and me, we'll see you again on Dad's Quality Stories.